So yes, as you were watching this, I lied. I said I wouldn't have any time to make any videos this week up until The Hunger Games does release because I'd be done with my college quarter at the time then. However, I did manage to find time in between my schedule because I had my first final yesterday and I have my last one on Thursday. So I found some time to pick up some new Blu-rays, which I am very long overdue for. And this is honestly one of the first days in months that I remember in which I actually went on the day certain movies released on Blu-ray and DVD and actually went to the store as early as possible to pick those up. And in addition to those, I'm also going to show off a lot of them that I picked up in the last few weeks or so, both Blu-ray and DVD. And to just show you guys what the stack looks like, it's a lot of stuff. It's this high right here. It's about 5 Blu-rays if I'm right, and a couple DVDs here and there, so let's get started right now. First Blu-ray, which just released today, and it's going to be picked up by a lot of people I know for sure, that is The Muppets. Now, don't kill me for saying this, but I did not see this movie in its theatrical run, and I highly regret that because The Muppets are such a nostalgic part of my childhood. I mean, if you're a 90s kid, I'm sure at least almost all of you know what The Muppets are, and especially for the fact that they got Jason Segel in this movie, and the fact that he co-wrote it. I heard amazing things that he contributed to this movie, both in the writing and his performance, and it has a great cast overall. Him, Amy Adams, Chris Cooper, and a ton of other people, nearly half of Hollywood cameos in this movie. I'm gonna have so much nostalgic stuff just run through my mind when I finally sit down to watch this, and I'm highly looking forward to it though, and that's it. I'm just really looking forward to it, and once again, I feel so bad for not seeing it before, but I'm really looking forward to it to get the nostalgic memories out of it. Next up, which also released today along with The Muppets, is David Fincher's The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. This is the first 2011 release on Blu-ray or DVD that I have bought in a long time because I just haven't simply had the time to pick up a bunch of the movies that I did love last year on these formats and stuff. But this is a great way to kick it off because the way that this Blu-ray looks alone in terms of its artistic quality for the cover art and everything, and it doesn't even have anything to do with the picture quality, it looks amazing. I mean, just look at the cover right here, and then look at the packaging for the front and the back. That is about as creative as you can get right there for any of these movies that are out these days. And overall for The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo though, I really did like it. It just missed the cut on my top 10 list after I did a lot of editing for it. However, I am really looking forward to watching it again because it was such a quick movie. For a movie that was 2 hours and 40 minutes or so, it sure flew by. But I am a David Fincher fan, and I really enjoy just about all of his movies. I haven't seen Alien 3, Panic Room, or The Game yet, and half of one movie that's coming up soon. But overall, this is a very enthralling experience. It wasn't as great as I hoped it had been, but it was still extremely satisfying, and props to Kirk Baxter and Angus Wall for winning the Best Editing Oscar second year in a row for this movie and The Social Network. Next up is a Blu-ray that I have been waiting to add to my collection for a long time, and this is a double dip as well because I own the DVD, but the fact that I heard the picture quality and the Blu-ray transfer of this movie looks so amazing, I had to buy it, and the guy's one of my favorite directors. That is Martin Scorsese's Taxi Driver. I've heard amazing things about how this Blu-ray looks, as I said before, and this is one of my top 20 favorite movies of all time. Robert De Niro has such a magnetic and very powerful performance in this film. Easily one of his career best, maybe even his best, right alongside as Jake LaMotta in Raging Bull. Absolutely love this movie, really looking forward to seeing it on Blu-ray. Next up is a movie that I only watched a few months ago, and I finally got the chance to pick it up on Blu-ray. Very cheap as well, you can get it for $5 at Target. And that is American Psycho, one of Christian Bale's greatest performances. It's the movie that really plunged him into the American scene as one of the most versatile actors in the business, and he has certainly shown that since then, especially with his Oscar-winning turn in The Fighter. However, this is what made him famous right here as Patrick Bateman. He commands this movie entirely. Such a magnetic and infused with chemistry turn, and he completely sucks you into his character from the very beginning that you see him, and his voiceover narrations throughout the movie also really enhance the experience. But damn, Christian Bale just... ugh, if you're a fan of him, you have not seen this, where have you been? And the final Blu-ray that I have to show for you guys is one of my favorite animated movies and also one of my favorite movies from the year 2009, and that is Wes Anderson's Fantastic Mr. Fox. I am a huge sucker for stop-motion animations. I just love all the classic aspects and a lot of the hard work that goes into these movies because these are some of the most physically demanding movies that are made these days because it takes a lot more than just computer animation work these days, and especially for the fact that you have to make figures and all that stuff, and I have to move them all the time for those shots. And it's translated perfectly for Wes Anderson's career as a director into this movie, because even when you're watching it, you can still pinpoint everything that made Wes Anderson famous for how he is today, with all the primary colors, all the crazy humor, a lot of the very mature humor at times too, and George Clooney, Meryl Streep, Jason Schwartzman, Bill Murray. A lot of those classic collaborators with Anderson all have voices in this movie, except for Clooney and Streep though, because I think this was their first time working with him. Yeah, it was. But this is still such a fun family movie in which it works as both a very endearing movie for kids, but a real classic for adults though. And to carry on the Wes Anderson trade, this is the only Criterion I have to show off, but it's one that I am truly proud to own, and that is the Darjeeling Limited. This, in my opinion, is Wes Anderson's most underrated movie. I absolutely love it. The relationship between the three brothers, played by Owen Wilson, Adrian Brody, and Jason Schwartzman, feels so realistic and so touching at times. This is also the most mature movie that Wes Anderson has made, because a lot of the times in this movie is that it does get that classic sense of Wes Anderson dry humor, but as the movie evolves into the third act or so is where it really gets mature and you really get digged into the drama, and it feels so touching and real. It's so relatable as well. This is one of my favorite movies of all time as well, and all the things that make Wes Anderson famous as a director, just like Fantastic Mr. Fox, appear in this movie. But this is one that is for the fans. This and Life Aquatic in particular, because they're definitely the most different out of his filmography, because they both took different turns in comparison to Rushmore, Royal Tenenbaums, Bottle Rocket. But this is still such a great watch, and if you're a Wes Anderson fan, I know you love this movie, and if you're just getting into his movies, you definitely have to finish off with this one. Next up to add on to the David Fincher train is Zodiac, and I mentioned earlier how I've only seen half of one of his movies, and this is one of them. I rented it on Netflix a while ago, and I got through half of it, but I was so tired and stayed up so late when watching it that I never got back to watching it once I shut it off at the point it was. I was really digging this movie for where it was going, and a lot of people tell me that this is the most underrated movie of 2007, and that should have gotten several Oscar nominations. I'm really looking forward to it because it really looks good, and also for the fact that it took a different spin on Fincher's direction, in which he literally did a character study in the midst of the Zodiac killer in 1970 San Francisco. Alone, the period piece setting of 70s San Francisco, from what I saw, was perfectly netted down, and that is something that David Fincher is phenomenal with. He nets down settings better than almost any other filmmaker today, and I'm really looking forward to catching up from where I left off with this. Next up as my final movie DVD, that's a clue for what kind of DVD the last one that I'll have to show you guys will be, is Zoolander. I never got around to watching this, surprisingly, but I've seen bits and pieces of it on TV, and I heard the humor is really stupid, but that's the point. It's intentional for those reasons, but it's also supposed to be a very smart satire on the fashion industry. I'm really looking forward to it because I am a fan of Ben Stiller. I like almost anything that the guy does these days, especially Tropic Thunder. Oh, Tropic Thunder, I love that movie. But I'm still really looking forward to watching this because I always love a good comedy, and the fact that it has a lot of great comedic actors starring in it, like Owen Wilson and Will Ferrell in particular. I'm really looking forward to getting around to watching this soon. And the final DVD that I have to show off to you guys is one that's not a movie. I'm going a little bit on a TV binge, and I think this will be a perfect way to start because a lot of people have told me how underrated this show is, and that is HBO's complete first season of Flight of the Conchords, which is about New Zealand's fourth most popular folk parody duo emigrating to New York and encountering American culture everywhere around them. And it stars Brett McKenzie, who recently won an Oscar for Best Original Song for the Muppets, actually, and Jermaine Clement, who's going to be the villain in the third Men in Black movie. And I'm really looking forward to watching this because HBO hasn't failed me in watching their comedies lately. However, I was a little bit disappointed with Bored to Death, but that was years ago when I watched the pilot of it. I'm getting told by a lot of my friends to get back into watching that show. But in the meantime, back to Flight of the Conchords, I'm really looking forward to watching this show. I've heard such great things about it, and it was nominated for a lot of Emmys when it was around. And I always love music when it's tied into a TV show, especially for the characters' occupation. So I'm really looking forward to watching this in the future. So those are all the Blu-rays and DVDs I have to show for you guys. I'm going to give you a couple announcements before I go. First off, on Thursday, I'm seeing a screening at my college for this little movie right here that's coming soon in theaters in about 2 weeks. And also, I have a screening for Mirror Mirror on Saturday, so you're going to expect early reviews for both of those movies. And I'll also be seeing Wrath of the Titans and The Raid Redemption next week, in addition to The Hunger Games, of course, this Friday. So I hope you can all take in those announcements and put them together with what you will. So in the meantime, Tar from Kai Kirk Reviews, and I'll see you guys on Friday with my review of The Hunger Games. Goodbye.